Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap for the March 14th until the 21st. This is a show where I talk about the newest watches being released. So first let's begin with the new Girard-Perregaux Laureato with Aston Martin F1 team. The F1 season has finally started. I couldn't be more excited. Of course, that means more F1 themed watches. Girard-Perregaux is the sponsor of Aston Martin F1 team, and this year we got this special edition. So this is actually the 75th anniversary of Formula 1. It's also the 50th anniversary of the Laureato model from Girard-Perregaux. So this watch is kind of special. It's a double anniversary. And even though the anniversaries make it kind of special, the looks are not that special, I would say. The case is made out of titanium. It features a 44mm diameter by about 14.6 millimeters in case height. This one comes with 300 meters of water resistance and is powered by the in-house caliber GP03-300, which is an automatic movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it comes with 46 hours of power reserve. Looking at the dial and the strap combination, you can instantly see those Aston Martin colors. Although for some reason on this watch, it doesn't look very good. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe the dial looks kind of empty, but for whatever reason, I'm not a big fan of this design. I think the standard Laureato looks much better, but hey, to each their own. That's just my opinion. And in terms of pricing and availability, this is a limited edition to only 88 pieces, so it's a very small run. And this watch is priced at almost 14,000 Swiss francs. So a pretty expensive watch for what it is. The new Nomos Minimatik 39 date collection. Nomos is a German brand that makes pretty much all of their watches in-house, including the components of the movement itself, and the cases. This model is actually an existing line of watches, the Minimatik 35.5. Now, as the name would suggest, it came in a 35.5mm diameter. Now for 2025, there is a new collection available in the 39mm diameter. The cases are made out of stainless steel. These watches are also super thin, only 7.5 millimeters in case height, and they come with about 50 meters of water resistance. This is a dress watch, so having 50 meters of water resistance is good enough. And one of the big changes between this new model and the previous model, other than the bigger size, is the addition of the date complication. To be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of how that big date looks on a dial. I think without the date complication, the watch looks better and cleaner, although I understand why they added the date, because having a date on a watch is very popular, especially if it's your only timepiece. It's just a useful complication to have. In terms of the movement powering this model is the new caliber DUW4601, which is based on the previous version of the movement with the addition of a date complication. And if you look at the movement, it looks kind of awkward because you have the center part of the movement that's the main component, so to speak, and then you have sort of the outer ring. That's where the date complication is housed. This movement beats at 3 Hz or 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it comes with about 52 hours of power reserve. There are 3 different versions of this watch available. Out of the 3, I like the one with the golden set of hands. I think that looks pretty good, although the other 2 versions are also quite attractive. In terms of pricing and availability for this collection, this will be part of the standard catalog. It's not a limited edition, and this model is priced at 3,200 USD. A little bit on the higher end, but still okay. The new Ressence Type 7 GMT models. Ressence watches started their business in 2011, and since then they actually established a pretty distinct design language. When you see one of these watches, you instantly know what it is. This new model for 2025 features a couple of new things to this brand. Number one, the integrated bracelet design, which is very in right now. I think a lot of watch companies are moving into that direction, and we're actually going to talk about a few other releases on today's list that also feature the integrated bracelet design for the first time. The second complication that we haven't seen before is the GMT complication that you can clearly see on the dial. That's the 24-hour indicator. The way you read this watch is kind of funky. So you have the main hours, that's the one with the hand, and also the hand itself kind of lights up depending on the temperature. I'm not sure how it works, but it is an oil-filled case, so I guess somehow it senses the temperature, and apparently there is something like 8 to 10 different temperature indicators. Not sure why you would need that, but I guess it's kind of cool. So that's how you read the hours on that subdial. Then you have the minutes hand going around that bezel-like structure. And lastly, you have the subdial for the seconds, which is kind of funky. And it's not a terribly big watch, 41mm diameter by about 14mm in case height, and it's made out of grade 5 titanium with 50 meters of water resistance. Even though it has this kind of funky complication, the movement is based on the ETA movement. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour and has about 36 hours of power reserve. And in terms of the pricing and availability, this watch is limited to 80 pieces, so it's a very small limited run, and it's quite expensive, 36,000 Swiss francs. I understand it's a very cool watch, but 36,000 Swiss francs seems a bit too high. The new all-black Hamilton Intra-Matic automatic chronograph models. I'm a pretty big fan of Intra-Matic Hamilton watches. In general, I like chronographs, and those Panda chronographs were very attractive. Now for 2025, we have 3 new models in all black cases with black dials, which look, in my opinion, very, very attractive. So first of all, the case design, it's coated with the DLC coating, which gives it this stealthy look. In terms of the dimensions, it's not too bad. 40mm diameter by about 14.5mm in case height. The watch is a bit on the thicker side, but that's because it's powered by an automatic chronograph movement. This one is powered by the caliber H31, which is a Valjoux-based movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour and also comes with about 60 hours of power reserve. What I really like about these watches, first of all, the design. Secondly, the water resistance rating. These are sort of true sports watches that come with 100 meters of water resistance. It's kind of tough to achieve with the chronograph, so I really like that. The second part I mentioned is the design. I really like how these watches look, especially the ones with the yellow or orange accents. They just look very sporty. They look like they belong on a racetrack. I think in general, PVD coated watches are not as popular as standard stainless steel looking watches, but for some reason, I think these ones will be quite popular. In terms of the pricing, that's the other part that I really like about this model. It's very reasonably priced at about 2,300 USD, which, yeah, I think that's what this watch should cost. Although I do have to mention, if you wait a few months, these watches will start popping up on a gray market for under 2 grand. Mark my words. The new MeisterSinger Kaenos collection. MeisterSinger has a very distinct design language, mainly the way they design their dials and the way you read the time. There's only one hand, so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you're used to it, I think it's kind of a creative way to make your watch stand out. And this is the second brand that we're going to talk about in today's video that is giving us, for the first time in 2025, integrated bracelet design on their watches. At first, I didn't really like the look of integrated bracelet on this watch, but the more I look at it, the more I like it, especially with this open date version. I think that looks way better than the one with the date cutout. In terms of the dimensions, both watches come in the same case. It's made out of stainless steel. It features a 40mm diameter, and I'm not sure about the thickness. That wasn't stated in the press release, but I can't imagine these watches being very thick because it only has one hand. In terms of the movement powering this one is the Sellita SW400 on the one without the open date, and is the Sellita SW200 on the one with the open date. Both movements are pretty much identical except for the date position. They both beat at 4 Hz and they both come with about 38 hours of power reserve. And in terms of pricing and availability for this model, it's not a limited edition. It will be part of the standard catalog, and these watches are priced at $26.50 for the date version and $29.50, that's euros, for the open date version. And out of the two, as I said, I prefer the open date version. So paying $300 or 300 euro extra, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I would go for that one if I was gonna buy one of these watches. The new Chronoswiss Pulse 1 watch collection. Chronoswiss is another German watch company. This is already the third German watch company that we are highlighting in this video. It's also the third watch company that is giving us an integrated bracelet design for the first time in 2025. This is a brand new collection for Chronoswiss. but it does have that Chronoswiss design language. The way you read the time is very interesting. So you have the hours by the 12 o'clock position, if you were to put this dial as sort of the standard dial. Then you have the minutes with the central hand, and then you have the retrograde seconds all the way at the bottom there. And the only thing that I really dislike about the design of this watch is the writing limited edition right on the dial. I think that's a bit of a misstep. Why even include that? Just get rid of it and the watch would look so much better. If you want to put limited edition somewhere, put it on the case back. In terms of the case design for this one, it features a pretty good dimension, 41mm diameter by about 12.75mm in case height. It's made out of grade 5 titanium and it features 100 meters of water resistance. This is supposed to be Chronoswiss's sort of sports model. In terms of the movement powering this watch is the caliber C6001, which is a Girard-Perregaux based movement. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour and it has about 55 hours of power reserve. In terms of the availability, this one is a limited edition, just like it says on the dial itself. Each version is limited to 100 pieces, and the price of this watch is 13,300 USD. So a pretty expensive watch, but also a very unique watch. The new Bell & Ross BR-X5 Black Titanium. Bell & Ross is one of these watch companies that everyone can instantly recognize, but not a lot of people have these watches in their watch collections. Actually, I want to ask you guys watching this video if you have any Bell & Ross watches in your collection. I'm just genuinely curious to see how many people actually own these watches, because in my years of watch collecting and reviewing watches on YouTube, I haven't really met many people with Bell & Ross watches in their collection. Now for 2025, we got this new model in black titanium, which looks very attractive, but it still has that Bell & Ross design language. It features a 41mm diameter by about 12.8mm in case height. It's made out of grade 2 microblasted titanium and it has about 100 meters of water resistance. In terms of the movement powering this watch is the caliber BR-323, which is a Canadian manufactured movement. It's a COSC certified movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it also comes with about 72 hours of power reserve. In terms of pricing and availability, this is permanent collection, so it's not going to be a limited edition, and it's priced at 8,900 euro for the one on the rubber strap and 9,900 euro for the one on the titanium bracelet. I think that's one of the reasons why not a lot of people have Bell & Ross watches in their collections. They're just very expensive for what they are. And speaking of expensive watches, let's talk about the new Richard Mille RM43-01, the Tourbillon split-second chronograph in collaboration with Ferrari. I usually don't talk about Richard Mille on this YouTube channel because I think their watches are ridiculous. They know that their watches are ridiculous and their watches are strictly made for people with less sense than money. But I couldn't resist not highlighting this watch because at a first glance it looks very complicated and it looks kind of cool, right? It has all this technology, but then the closer you look, the stupider this watch becomes. It has a split-second chronograph, which is very cool complication, but the chronograph only times things up to 30 minutes, which is a bit of a letdown. Then you have a tourbillon complication, which on one hand is kind of cool. On the other hand, this is supposed to be a sports watch, and including a tourbillon on one of these, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. Then I was looking around and I found all these other sort of hands and indicators and I was wondering what the hell they are. So I started reading more into it. The one between 10 and 11 o'clock position, that's the power reserve indicator. Okay, that's pretty simple. The one between 1 and 2 o'clock position, that's the torque indicator. So I was like, what the is a torque indicator? Started looking into it and it's pretty much nothing. It just shows you if the beat rate of the movement has dropped, which it shouldn't. And usually it would drop if the power reserve goes really low. And since you have the power reserve indicator, you don't really need a torque indicator, but I guess they did it just for the balance sake. The last sort of complication that you have is the one by the 3 o'clock position. So I was like, what the hell is that thing? You know, it has W, it has N, and it has H. And this complication, if you can call it that, simply tells you the position of the crown. So the neutral is N, that's when the crown is sort of pushed in. The first position, that's the winding position, so that's the W. And the last position is H, that's the hacking seconds. So what's that all about? again, it's just there for looks. It doesn't really add anything to the overall functionality of the watch. And in terms of functionality, just trying to read this watch seems like a bit of a nightmare. The minutes and the hours hands just get completely lost. And of course, you have that Ferrari logo by the 7 o'clock position, which on one hand, cool. On the other hand, you can get a watch with a Ferrari logo at your local mall for like $100. Okay, so complications on this watch are kind of stupid. What about the overall shape and the design? Maybe that's cool. Well, that's where you're wrong, because it comes in a pretty large case, 43 millimeter diameter by about 17.1 millimeters in case height. 17.1 millimeters. What the hell? Why? Who needs this? I was making fun of the last week's release of Omega Planet Ocean for having such a thick profile, but that watch came with 600 meters of water resistance. This watch comes with 50 meters of water resistance, and it's 17 millimeters in case height. That's just ridiculous. Now, for the finale of this stupidity of watchmaking, let's talk about the prices and the materials. So this watch comes in both titanium and full carbon cases. Both versions are limited to 75 pieces, and the titanium version costs $1.3 million. That's ridiculous. But wait till you hear the carbon version, right? That one costs $1,535,000. It's $235,000 more than the titanium version. What is this carbon case made out of? Why is it so much more expensive? It makes no sense in my opinion. So this watch, just absolutely ridiculous, absolutely useless. And I don't know. I just wanted to complain to someone about it. Sorry for the rant. That's pretty much it for this week's watch releases. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about this week's releases. Did anything stand out to you? I always enjoy reading your comments. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye.